So it does balance out, but I think it'll be a really interesting one to see today. The athletes that normally race with that factoring system all race and start at the same time. It'll be a new dynamic.
We just see Team USA, our #1 ranked team, getting presented there. So Kendall Gresh will be leading them off. Carson Clough, Grace Norman, and Carson Clough again. So one of our teams where we only have 3 athletes, and he will be doing essentially leg 2 and 4. As we see Team France, #2, having just been presented there. Francis Perel, Senecla, and Alexis Hancock. Brazil, their team #3. Jessica Ferreira will be leading them off. Jorge Luis Fonseca will be anchoring them. And Lauren Parker there needs no introduction. She'll be leading off for Team Australia. Jeremy Peacock, Maggie Sandals, and Jack Howell making up their quartet.
Hasn't seen a number of athletes not in wetsuits. You must have seen the water temperature increase slightly from earlier today.
Team Spain. Eva Maria Moral Pedrero, Fari Ruiz Lopez, Susana Rodriguez, and Nil Rudovitz victory. Yeah, interesting, Johnny, you say about the water temperature. I wonder what the water temperature, if it is actually below that 20 threshold or not, or have the athletes chosen to just not wear the wetsuits because it's only a 125-meter swim? That might be a factor.
Yeah, and being absolutely upfront, I'm not sure if the temperature regs are slightly lower there for this relay format, but there's undoubtedly, with the para-triathlon side of things, transitions are going to come into play just that much more. You're going to need assistance for these wheelchair athletes out to swim, and we hope to see really good, safe, effective support for those athletes up the beach. But not only are you changing trainers, in a lot of cases you're going to be changing arms and legs and pieces of equipment all over the place. So
yeah, and it looked like Giuseppe Romele there choosing not to go with a wetsuit. So one of our athletes not wearing a wetsuit, some with wetsuits, some without. So yeah, interesting dynamics as well. Tactical decisions being made as we have a look at our team world here, made up, like you mentioned, of 3 Dutch athletes and 1 French athlete.
Good international cooperation there. And that again is because a team can only have 1 wheelchair athlete in it. So the French team obviously had 2 wheelchair athletes to choose from. Really good to see that in this first outing, that they've been able to support just another team and just more experience for the athletes, but also experience for the organisers. What I'm sure is going to be a hectic hour ahead of us.
And Team Japan were all smiles there being presented. And Team USA 2. So our USA fielding 2 teams out here today. Howie Sanborn, Taylor Talbot, Alyssa Seeley, and Chris Hammer making up that quartet for Team USA.
Yeah, again, you've got 2 Paralympic champions in that race. Alicia Seeley back from Tokyo. Chris Hammer won in Paris in fine form. Howie Sanborn, an absolute regular within that American team, and then a slightly newer athlete in Taylor.
So not long to go now before these athletes will start their 125-meter swim.
See the support there that's been given from all of the swim marshals in those bright yellow tops. They will have gone through some training to be able to make sure they can do that safely. But this will be a critical swim exit. 10 wheelchair athletes coming through at such a rate. We need to hope that those volunteers are ready. So they will play a part in that overall result.
So just the starters, Claxon to wait. And they are off. This first ever World Triathlon, Para-Triathlon Mixed Team Relay World Championships. So Johnny, just explain a little bit to our viewers the swim cap colors. We can see they're all wearing red swim caps at the moment. Are there different rules with regards to the colors of swim caps that can help our viewers?
Yeah, well, normally within paratriathlon, you get different coloured swim hats depending on the support that you need to get out of the water. So it's got nothing to do with your class. It's got nothing to do whether you're male or female. But it's basically whether you need full lifting out of the water or whether you need support out of the water, or whether you just need those volunteers to get well out of the way, just to let you get up and do it on your own. So this being the wheelchair category, every athlete within this class wearing a red hat because they need full support. So just explaining there the critical kind of next couple of minutes. Let's hope there's enough of the volunteer teams there to support all 10 athletes at the same time.
Yeah, our athletes 4 across there, our leaders there. We can just see really tightly bunched. One of the athletes just getting closed in around that first buoy. So they'll head out to these 2 orange buoys. They've made the turn and they'll head straight back into shore. But yeah, it looked quite congested as they headed around that buoy. They were 4 wide. Looks like they now have moved into double line. Our 2 leaders swimming alongside each other, and 2 straight on their feet with another 2 straight onto their feet. You can see Italy in the blue tri-suit there. That'll be Giuseppe Romele. Who should we expect to be leading out of the water, Johnny? Who are our stronger swimmers?
I think just sat there in second place, slightly darker back, is Josh Landman, wheelchair athlete from Great Britain. Seconds away from finding out which athlete there is coming out first. That's Noël from France, actually in the international team today. It's Kendall Gretsch we just saw coming out of the water there, so that's the first of our female athletes from the USA. Fantastic swim from Kendall.
That looked like Mona Francis as well from France coming out of the water.
United States, Italy, Team World, Great Britain, France, all within 10 seconds of each other. The blue carpet we can see there is what's called pre-transition, so it's an area where if any of those athletes need to get any support or they need to do anything, they've got an opportunity to do that. At this point, none of their support are allowed to help, so this is a nice flat piece of wooden kind of decking that's down there. So these athletes will all have handlers, but they're not allowed to push or add at any point within the race outside of transition.
So yeah, quite tight there between our first 4 teams. We had Team USA, Italy, Team World and Great Britain all out of the water within 8 seconds of each other. You can see 2 of our athletes right next to each other there. Team Italy, I think, leading them into transition in the blue tri-suit. Giuseppe Romele.
Yeah, Giuseppe finished 4th there in the individual race in what is a hotly contested wheelchair, men's wheelchair category. Not having to face any of the big Dutch giants over the course of this relay, who are normally very, very dominant.
So Romele into transition first. I'm sure we'll get a split shortly. We can identify who that athlete was. Second into transition.
See Kendall Gretsch there, choosing to wear the wetsuit today.
I think that was Noël from our world team heading out.
It's Noël there. His Team World, a fantastic start in this race. Team France actually starting with Mona Francis, who's their female athlete.
Team GB heading out, Landman.
Josh Landman finished 7th in the individual race. Again, it'll be an interesting one now we get onto the bike format here, men and women racing. We saw that actually it didn't make a huge deal of difference there for Kendall Gretsch on the swim. Coming right out at the front. We would expect to see some of these distances start to stretch a little bit.
Yeah, so Team World leading the athletes out of transition onto the bike. It's 4 seconds back. Team Italy, Great Britain finding themselves 23 seconds off the lead, followed very closely by Team France and Team Japan, with Team USA hot on their heels. So we have 6 teams out on the road at the moment, all within 30 seconds of each other, Johnny. So all pretty close at the moment. And like you mentioned, we do have a mix of male and females right up there, which just brings a totally new and interesting dynamic to proceedings.
Yeah, we see this in quite a lot of para sports where you're not only trying to mix genders, but you're also trying to bring together a whole range of classifications. So it may make for confusing viewing right at this minute. Across the format of start to finish, see the fairest, hopefully most exciting version of our triathlon relay.
So for Team France, Mona Francis leading them out. One of our female athletes right up there in contention at the moment in that top 4.
Yeah, fantastic swim there from Mona Francis. We're watching the other French athlete, but who is racing for Team World. He'll be handing over to actually three Dutch athletes.
Yeah, and would that have been a difficult decision for the French, whether to go with a male or female athlete, or would that all have been pretty much based off the fact that they needed to stay under those 20 points for the team?
Yeah, it'll be quite complicated math, so not only a difficult decision, but mathematically one that you just need to figure out. So Team France, kicking off with Mona Francis, going to hand over to Antoine Parel, who was 3rd in both Paralympic Games and Grand Final on Friday. Antoine will actually have to do leg 2 and leg 4. Leg 3, Camille Seneclas. Therefore, their one male athlete needs to be the one who does 2 legs. So, an interesting decision not to put Luis Noel in this team, because it would have just then had an impact on who else you could bring in, not to exceed that maximum 20 points.
Yeah, I guess we know we haven't had a lot of these para-triathlon mixed team relays, so it also gives the countries, I guess, an opportunity to test things out, as well as, you know, these events start to roll out more and they ramp up more. I guess, you know, they'll see potentially a pattern emerging as to what is the most successful order, that type of thing for these athletes. So, yeah, I think France raced last year in Ponte Vedra, where they finished in 2nd place to the USA. So haven't had too many outings. Yeah, I guess just an opportunity as well to learn how the team dynamics work.
Yeah, and I think we will see teams start to figure out how they put together the best combination of athletes to get the best from these really, really short distances. And I think when you look through the points that are allocated to certain categories, having a visually impaired athlete within your team at the minute certainly seems to look like a real strength. And again, not every team has a visually impaired athlete to choose from. So we've got France, Brazil, Spain, GB, Italy, and the US, all in a position where they're going to be able to field a visually impaired athlete. And we'll see later today whether that comes to fruition and does play a part in those podium places.
Yeah, Louis Noel here with a really strong performance in the individual race, finishing in 5th, 4th in Paris at the Paralympic Games, just missing out on a medal there. So he'll be hoping for a strong performance out here today, which he is, finding himself right at the lead of this race. No one else in sight at the moment. See him taking that rather technical turn. As far as courses go, Johnny, is this one of the more technical ones for these athletes, or is it standard across the board?
To be honest, this is probably slightly less technical than the junior and under 23 race that we've just seen. As a course, it is a little bit more technical than I think sometimes we do get to see, which I know these athletes will appreciate. Some of the tighter elements certainly proved challenging in Friday's race, where you had multiple classes out on the road at the same time. I don't think we'll have those issues today. I think one thing just to point out that we will see, which will look very different to our junior and under 23 and the elite relays that we do get to see, is it won't be an in-person handover from legs 1, 2 to 3 to 4. And that's simply just because that would add on such a significant element to the race in terms of an athlete coming from a chair and trying to hand over to an athlete who may have an impairment issue, may have a leg prosthesis, may use crutches. So what will happen is these athletes will go through, in essence, a finish zone, and then the technical officials will radio down to the swim, and they will then start the relevant athletes from those countries off in a deep water start, exactly as we've seen at the start of this race.
So he's just making his way now into transition, so completing that 3.4 kilometer bike. And it is Team World into transition first. Luis Knoll, really strong bike leg by the French athlete. And possibly also sending a message to the French selectors. You know, you might be perhaps a little bit disappointed he wasn't included in the French team. But getting his opportunity here in the world team, and very strongly indeed. So Team World with a significant lead at the moment.
So if we thought that the 1,500 meters of the junior and under 23 races were short, we're going to get to see these athletes push their wheelchair over 900 meters. For anyone who's never seen a wheelchair move, they can move it in speeds of excess of 20 miles an hour. We expect some of the best athletes today to be up at 21, 22 miles an hour.
Does that make those dead turns challenging? We can see we have two pretty much 180-degree turns on this course.
Yeah, it's just an element of technical skill. I think newer athletes certainly find it challenging. I would expect and really hope that athletes like we're watching there, Kendall Gretsch, will make light work of them. It will mean that they have to slow considerably down to take that turn safely and then accelerate out of it. But again, they're all just really technical kind of skills that a good wheelchair athlete should have.
So Team Italy in second place, 33 seconds back. We then have Team GB and Team USA pretty much neck and neck, sitting in third and fourth respectively. They're not too far off the likes of Team Italy, so just sitting around just over 10 seconds behind Italy. So our teams second, third and fourth still right up there in contention. You can see him making his way down the promenade there. Like we've said before, Johnny, in the junior and under 23, what a beautiful morning and a beautiful location for this event.
Couldn't ask for any better. Nice dry weather. It looks like the wind has dropped from the races a couple of days ago as well. See, at the minute, it's mainly our male athletes, who on the whole are kind of H2 athletes, so slightly less impaired, making the sort of front end of this field. Kendall Gretsch, though, going out of transition right in the mix of things as the leading female athlete within this group, and Kendall can really make a wheelchair move. So I don't think she's going to lose too much time to any of these men over what is going to be such a short distance. And in reality, these guys will do a lot of track training. It's a good, safe space for them to be able to train on. So put their head down and just try and visualize 2 laps of a track a little bit more.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting, you know, when the dynamic changes, Kendall's going to hand over to Carsten. So, you know, being a male athlete, and he would potentially be competing against some of the female athletes. So I think it's going to ebb and flow a bit, which is going to just make it that more exciting, isn't it? I think we probably see some changes in lead. Just makes the dynamic really exciting, as we can see some of our athletes waiting there for that virtual changeover.
That's what we're seeing there as the athletes go past that flag. That is them done.
Yeah, Team World is home and dry. Team Italy as well, 53 seconds back. Team USA sitting at just over a minute back. And because of the nature of that virtual finish, in fact, our second leg athletes are already in the water.
We're watching Flip Brouwer from the Netherlands at the front of this men's world team, sorry, mixed team relay world team. PTS3 male athlete actually finished 8th in the individual race on Friday, whereas Carson Clough, who we're just watching behind, is a PTS4 athlete. He's a leg amputee, second place from Paris. So we would expect, like you said, Jill, for some of these gaps to change at a rate of knots. I don't think there will be a single leg where we don't see considerable shifts and changes. And I think we will only really start to understand how the race is panning out as those final athletes head out onto the final run.
Yeah, and we can see he's wearing a red swim cap, which, like you mentioned, Johnny, means he requires assistance. What does the green swim cap mean? Presumably that the athlete doesn't require any assistance. Yeah. So we can see Carson, I think, in the green swim cap. He was heading around that last buoy, heading back to shore. But here is our leader for Team World.
Just to give an indication, the difference in speed between Carson Clough and Flip Lawyer from the Netherlands was nearly 20 minutes different over a sprint distance. Some of that will be their experience and how good an athlete they are. Some of that will be the classification that they're in and how much their impairment impacts them on doing a triathlon. You can see the Netherlands athlete there in pre-transition, needing that time to dry stump. He'll be then putting on whatever liner he needs to put on, make sure that he's not taking sand into that.
I think that's Italy already heading through, isn't it? Yeah, that's Team Italy heading through. So Francesca Tarantello, one of our visually impaired athletes, heading through and up the beach.
Whereas Carson needed to stop because he's a single leg amputee, through knee single leg amputee, so he will be there just making sure he gets his prosthetic on safely. Tarantello, a really, really exciting young athlete, and actually an athlete who came through at the Abu Dhabi World Champs post the Tokyo Games to take her first world title. And I think many of us, including myself, wrongly thought maybe that was the changing of the guard, but we'll get to see Susana Rodriguez slightly later in this race for Team Spain, who came through on Friday and just had an absolutely dominant race. Again, Susana Rodriguez is a B1 athlete, so Tarantello normally starts 3 minutes behind Susana and does close that gap, so in effect is potentially a slightly faster athlete. He's a great runner as well, as we can see, is needed what is a very long T1.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a really long run up the beach. So we can see, we spoke about the dynamics and how we expected the leadership of this race to change, ebb and flow. So Italy now taking the lead. Team USA, in fact, now in second. So we can just see our Italians heading out. Tarantello of Italy there.
Claire Cashmore, we're just seeing. Claire, fantastic swimmer coming from a Paralympic swimming background. However, has now done paratriathlon in the last 2 Paralympic Games. Finished 3rd in Tokyo, finished 2nd in Paris, finished 2nd again. World Championship final on Friday.
Yeah, so she is now sitting in 3rd place for Great Britain.
We can see, as we were talking about earlier in the junior race, Claire actually choosing to race in trainers. Interested to see whether they've changed the pedals of the shoes to flats. Could that be decisive when we're getting towards T2, saving some of those vital seconds?
Yeah, it's an interesting decision. Like you said, Johnny, the bike is only 3.4 kilometers long, with a short run as well for these first 3 athletes of 900 meters. So that could be a decisive decision. You know, only time will tell. I think that's Team USA. They're just behind Italy. Carson Clough.
With most of their run shoes now having carbon plates in them, maybe slightly more suited.
Yeah, he was just 4 seconds back behind Team Italy. Great Britain sitting 23 seconds off the lead. Team World dropping now to 4th, 30-odd seconds back.
We heard Carson give an interview for his individual race. See the prosthetic leg that he's using there. It actually looks like a run leg, and that's because it is. And he said he stole that idea directly from Alexis Hankin, his competition. So he will ride in what effectively is a run leg. He'll have a cleat which is sort of sunken up into the rubber of the sole. But when he comes off this bike, he won't change legs again. He'll get straight off and just straight running.
And how much time would you think that would save him?
Significant, because you're not just changing a pair of trainers. At that point, you are taking a whole leg off. You're checking the line, and underneath that leg is still safe and secure. Whenever you put a new leg on, it needs to be airtight. So most of these athletes do use sort of suction, and they have to push right down. The amount of times we've seen when competitors, they get sweaty and it's wet, they change a leg, they can often then stop quite early on in the run just to sort of bed it down, where we won't have any of that today. So Carson Clough, again, male athlete, he will carry a slightly higher level of points, I think. Seeing the speed, he's able to carry slightly quicker. Goes past Tarantello on the bike.
Yeah, and with such small margins, you're right, every second seems to count. So we see Great Britain here, Cashmore of Great Britain looking really strong, getting nice and aero. Would you say her biking is one of her strengths, all-round athlete?
Yeah, Claire's an incredibly good all-round athlete, having transitioned from swimming. Cycling was probably the one that she's needed to learn the most, but she's now been in the sport since 2017, so she's not new to this anymore at all. See these athletes riding bikes that would be much more akin to a sort of middle distance, long distance Ironman type ride, and that's because in their individual disciplines they're not allowed to draft, and today's the same. It's a non-drafting format. They can fully maximize their time trial bikes and time trial positions.
You see Carson Clough just rounding that 90-degree turn. So yeah, it'll be full gas for this 3.4 kilometer bike. Really short, fast. And I guess a different dynamic for these athletes from the sprint distance that they're used to. But again, I would suggest probably like our junior and under 23 athletes. These athletes are so versatile. They do such a wide spectrum of training with different intensities. You know, this is not going to be unusual for them, is it?
I think it's a great opportunity because I think within para triathlon there's much less opportunity to race than when you're a non-disabled athlete. So they're sort of forced into the sprint distance because that's all you can do. There's no real opportunities at Ironman. You don't do Olympic distance. So you might find actually there's some athletes who would be better suited to a longer distance. But I think what we'll see over the coming years is really identify those athletes who are just fast twitched, really like moving along at a high pace.
Carson Clough here just rounding one of the last technical parts of the course, and our Italians are not far off the back of him, are they? Tarantello of Italy there.
No, tandems are one of the fastest moving bits of equipment that we see within the sport. So you can see obviously there's two athletes there driving down through their pedals, putting twice as much sort of torque and watt through the bike. It's probably not the perfect course for a tandem because coming around the corners there's obviously a lot more tension around the bike, and it's going to require the coordination of two people to stand up out the saddle and to sprint away. But I think if we saw this being a longer, flatter course, I think you would probably see Tarantello coming back at Clough. But she's done fantastically well to hold that gap. She won't need to hang around in transition too long.
Yeah, I was just going to say she might be slightly quicker in and out of transition, as we can see her heading back down towards the beach. Tarantello of Italy just in the foreground there. You can see Carson Clough of the USA, Team USA in first place at the moment. We're nearly halfway through this first ever World Championships Para Triathlon Mixed Team Relay. So 900-meter run for Carson Clough.
Seeing those time gaps do look like they're starting to be quite decisive, but we will see them change. We'll see them change time and time again. I'm absolutely sure of it.
So USA, Team Italy, 7 seconds back. So we've had USA with a female and now male athlete. Team Italy similarly started with a male athlete and now have a female athlete. Once they head on to their next leg, Grace Norman will take over from Carson Clough, and we'll have Azura Carancini for Team Italy.
This is one of the athletes we're going to get to see twice today, the other being Carson Clough. So Antoine Parel, B1 visually impaired athlete, medalled in Paris, medalled again at the weekend in the individual races. Carson Clough, as we're watching here, no leg change. You need to see there on the run blade. Carson and Antoine, both athletes who are going to get 7 or 8 minutes rest. In that time, they've got to get their swim kit back on, got to get their transition set up, but no rest, in essence.
No, that's not a lot of recovery, and in fact, you know, a lot of that time will be probably making their way back over to the beach. So 24 seconds the gap. So that tactical decision with Team USA, Carson Clough with his leg removal, that seems to have paid off because he's actually gained some time, hasn't he? It was 7 seconds. Team Italy entered transition. He had 24 seconds heading out.
I didn't see whether he needed to change a trainer. I would have presumed he'd gone from bike shoes to run shoes. We're watching Rui Lopez from Spain.
Spain sitting in 6th place at the moment. They're sitting just over a minute and a half back. Brazil currently in 5th. Team France in 4th. GB in 3rd. And right here on screen at the moment, Team Italy sitting in 2nd place. And Team USA, our leaders at the moment.
Chased down by Perel from France, but just such a brilliant thing to see Tarantello there from Italy moving so wonderfully. Although it's early, this US team are certainly showing some dominance when we look at the 3rd place athletes who will be taken over. Grace Norman will be 3rd for this US team, and Grace has just had such a wonderful year. She's Paralympic champion, she's world champion, and she's stepped her run on significantly. And looking through the rest of the 3rd place athletes, there's not many stronger than Grace. Grace will hand straight back over to her teammate, Carson Clough.
Perel now just looming, passing by Tarantello of Italy. Like you mentioned, Grace Norman, what a fantastic year. Wouldn't it be wonderful for her to round out not only her Paralympic title, world title, but a mixed team relay title would be a wonderful addition to that, wouldn't it?
I know that the American team are, and always have been, such a strong team with great team dynamics, so they'll be loving being in this position right now.
Yeah, and they are now out onto the swim. That's Grace Norman. She will be heading out to that first buoy. Clear water ahead of her. Nobody in sight for now. And Perel of France finishing really strongly here, isn't he? Great run.
When you look, Team France there headed out only a matter of seconds, 10 seconds ahead of Team Great Britain. This is where this mixed format, not just within the entire race, but within each leg, really starts to come into its own.
So we have Camille Seneclau heading out for France. She will be the 3rd leg of this relay for Team France. As we see Grace Norman, she's rounded that first turn buoy already. She'll do a left turn around this orange buoy and head back into the beach.
This is definitely where we may start to see some changes. We've got Camille Seneclau's 2nd on Friday in the PTS for women, but that was a category where there was a lot of really, really strong players missing from that race. And we've got Megan Richter, who is on the 3rd leg for Team Great Britain, unfortunately was unwell on Friday and had to pull out the individual race, but was probably a shock surprise winner in Paris, taking that Paralympic title. But in some of those other teams as well, you're going to have athletes in less impaired categories. I would expect potentially France to start to be closed up in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can see Team France, Italy and Great Britain. They are pretty close together. You can just see actually Great Britain and Italy there swimming together. Not long now, that gap between them and France. Just creeping up on Team France. It was only just over 10-second gap between France and Italy off that run. Great Britain was sitting just a further 14-odd seconds behind. They've now made that up, so that's a fantastic swim by Great Britain at the moment in the water. Let's see how much time that they made up.
Yeah, Megan again coming from a swimming background. and actually transitioned, I say transitioned, she started to do triathlon back in 2018, and I think there was a lot of talk about her being a new athlete in Paris, but she started her international career 2018, but then actually took some time out for her studies and then came back with a vengeance in the last couple of years to qualify and win that Paralympic title.
See Grace Norman heading up the beach. She'll make her way onto the promenade, up that ramp that you can see at the top of the shot, over the bridge and into transition.
Grace being an athlete who races in the same category as Claire Cashmore, who we've just seen in the previous leg for Great Britain. One of the fastest women in the sport.
Yeah, and this long run into transition will probably suit Grace.
Despite her being a leg amputee, it doesn't slow her down in any way, shape or form. And actually, when she was a much, much younger athlete back in Rio, she took her first Paralympic title in paratriathlon, and then the very next day moved across to the track and actually raced the 400 in Rio. She's since left her track and field days behind her, but she loves her running.
Yeah, you can see that. She was flying through those ramps into transition. They're moving really well.
And when we look at some of the run times from the junior women, it was something I always used to say in my role is, in this least impaired category, I really, really believe you should be, as a female adult para-athlete, really starting to aspire towards where some of those junior standards are. And Grace has run a sort of mid-17.5K this year. When you compare that to some of the front end of the junior fields, it's absolutely right up there. So truly, truly world class.
Yeah, and you just got a shot there of France and Great Britain together, so nothing separating them. They will be heading into transition together. 59 seconds and a minute 2 seconds respectively coming out of the swim, and we saw them running up that ramp.
Grace is only going to extend that gap, I would say, on Team France, Team Great Britain, everybody.
So yeah, Team USA, you know, having a masterclass performance here today. Took that title in Pontevedra, that test event last year. They were second and third respectively at the demonstration event in Abu Dhabi, and at the moment leading this World Championships. So Team Great Britain here.
Megan is one of our neurologically impaired athletes, has a mild form of cerebral palsy, which we can see there when coming through transition. Some of the complexities around trainers and helmets all comes into play. That's all what that point system is there to try and balance out.
And electing to go with the trainers, I see there.
Yeah, seems to be a British tactic.
Yeah.
Grace in her full bike setup. So Grace, different to Carson, she has a very bespoke bike leg, which is just one solid bit of carbon with a cleat on the bottom. You're going to put much more power through, but you will have to go through a second change.
Just see Susana Rodriguez there heading out for Spain.
Yeah, Susana is probably one of the strongest third leg athletes right now, and actually was a couple of minutes quicker than Grace over the course of sprint distance on Friday. Really where you start to see that tandem power come through. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Spain start to move very quickly up from 6th, currently 90 seconds back.
Yeah, would you say 90 seconds? Is she going to be able to make up a deficit like that?
I think when you look at Team Italy, she's already up to 5th here.
Yeah, it looks like she's made up
seconds.
10 seconds, in fact, going through transition. So she's sitting 1 minute 18 off the leaders. She's only 7 seconds behind Team Italy and around 40 seconds behind Great Britain.
Wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the run, she was up there in that sort of third, second place.
Yeah, so possibly putting Spain right back into medal contention. So currently with Grace Norman of the USA. So 3.4 kilometers, this bike section. She'll be the last of the athletes to head out on that shorter 900-meter run. Of course, our last athletes having to run slightly further, 350 odd meters. They'll be running 1.25 kilometers. And like Johnny mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, a lot of the countries choosing to put their fastest males on that last leg for that very reason, that last run is a little bit longer than legs 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, we've got some fantastic runners on that last leg. Alexis Hankin-Kwon, Neil Rueditz's victory, Chris Hammer, Dave Ellis. Athletes you would expect to be over 5K, down in those low 16s. Well, Dave ran a 5K PB only just this year, 14:55. So it's going to be a fast and frantic end. They've got flat pedals with a, looks like a Velcro strap over the top. So really interesting to see, even at this early stage within para mixed relay, the use of a little bit of technology just to try and speed things up. Interesting to see whether that's had any impact.
Yeah, and presumably in her individual race, she would have been in bike shoes. So this is a tactical decision, you know, specifically for this relay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you said, we did see that initially when mixed team relay came to the fore a few years ago. A lot of the teams were, you know, trying different things with all these shoe attachments. And we'll probably get a similar situation with the para, as, you know, we have more races and athletes find, you know, their different tactical decisions, that type of thing. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether they maintain the shoes, the clip-ins, or if we revert back to the bike shoes. Lots of little intricacies and tactics, I guess, to iron out over the next few years.
Remember the days where some athletes chose to run bare feet?
Yeah.
That got,
I think that's now
banned pretty quickly.
Yeah, banned, yeah. Probably a safety decision, I think. Probably, you know, it's an injury risk.
It's an interesting dynamic we've got here with Team France and Team Great Britain. So these two respective athletes race in the same class as each other. And as we said, Megan was unwell and didn't race the individual race, but we've got Seneclas here from France. I know Megan sat 10 seconds or so behind, I think, where we're looking at. Will absolutely want to, it's a race within a race.
Yeah, and if she is fully recovered, then yeah, you're right. She'll really want to try and eat into as much of that gap as possible, won't she?
Absolutely.
Probably be pretty disappointed that she was unable to start that race, but she's got a chance at redemption here in this relay. And if the illness hasn't taken too much out of her, she will have possibly a little bit more in the tank, as we see Grace Norman now coming into transition.
Yeah, Meg was a couple of minutes quicker over the 20 kilometers in Paris. Their run form was very, very tightly matched. So she does manage to close that gap. Going on to the run, you could see the first of a fairly well-matched 900 meters.
Yeah, so that gap was 13 seconds when they headed out onto the bike. So let's see. I think France has just come in. Yeah, so around 5 seconds, Johnny. So she's made up some time there. But similarly, so has Team Spain.
Susana Rodriguez, we were saying on that tandem, will just be going at a significantly quicker speed. We've seen, inevitably, I think, will come off that transition into T2, second place. There, Grace changing legs.
Quick transition.
That's it, we've now got visuals. Susana Rodriguez coming off in second place. France and Great Britain very, very close behind. I don't think anybody is catching Grace Norman over this next kilometer.
Yeah, she had just over a minute was her lead when she came into transition. And very exciting now between second, third and fourth. Spain, France, Great Britain, all really close together. So France in, Spain into transition. Great Britain is in as well. See Susana Rodriguez getting the trainers on there.
see that quick change from
yeah,
Megan.
no need to change the shoes for Megan, so that technical decision gaining her a few seconds.
You see that run form from Grace. I know Grace and Lauren Steadman both raced last weekend in Alhambra, and I think both were fairly unwell actually and spent most of this week in bed. It looks like she's come off the back of that individual race in great form.
Susana Rodriguez flying around the corner there, to the delight of the home crowd. You can see the Spanish supporters there just cheering her on. Graced the cover of Time magazine, Susana Rodriguez, so a well-known face in Spain.
She's a great athlete, a great advocate for this sport, and you know, she gave quite a challenging interview, but it just comes from a place of loving the sport and wanting it to be absolutely as good as it can be. It's interesting here, does Megan have slightly fresher legs because she didn't race that individual race a couple of days ago? At the minute it looks like that's possibly the case.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. We obviously don't know, you know, how ill she was, etc. But hopefully she is back to full health. Sometimes you don't know. If it's a 24-hour bug, it might not take as much out of you. But yeah, she looks pretty solid at the moment. So
it's been a really good run form. That's what impressed in Paris. A great bike, but I think many weren't expecting her to then run through the field to take that victory. Claim her first Paralympic gold medal and move through transition quite quick. So Susanna sat maybe 15-20 meters just back down that road a little bit as we're watching Grace Norman rapidly head down, and we'll be handing back over to Carson Clough, who we hope has got his swim kit
round
ready.
2 for him. Yeah, hopefully he's made his way back onto the beach and is ready to head out into the water for the second time. At least he'll be familiar with the course. You just see the grimace on the face. She's really, really gassing it, isn't she? Giving it 100%. We know how hard this mixed team relay is. Across the line, the virtual handover. If any of you missed us at the beginning of the broadcast, it's a virtual handover. The athletes will head across that line and it'll be radioed to the officials on the beach, who will send off the athletes in the water.
Going to make for a fascinating finish here. Megan Richter doing all she can to hold off Susana Rodriguez, and I don't think she's going to quite manage it, but we'll hand over to their respective 4th place athletes in the coming seconds. Neil Ruidit's victory, PTS 4, 2nd place on Friday, and a fantastic runner.
So Rodriguez flying past Megan Richter.
Spanish athlete there is going to have Dave Ellis chasing him down. Dave being one of the visually impaired athletes, and over the course of that sprint distance, a good few minutes quicker than Ruidit's victory. Megan has to do everything she can just to limit those seconds.
Yeah, I guess Rodriguez wants to try and capitalize and give victory as much of a gap as possible over Dave Ellis.
There they go. Like it's going to be about a 5-second gap.
Yeah, not a massive gap. You can just see Team Spain heading out into the water there, I think.
Dave again, his background, although a long, long time ago now, was as a Paralympic swimmer. Ruidit's victory, his impairment is an arm impairment as well. He tucks his arm into his tri-suit, so he'll be swimming with one arm. I would imagine we'll see Dave and Luke very quickly move past, probably clear onto that bike. But Team USA currently 84 seconds ahead of Team Spain.
Yeah, putting on an absolute show at the moment, Team USA.
But every second here in transition is going to make the difference.
What would you say is a deficit that the likes of GB might be able to eat into with regards to getting themselves on top of the podium, Johnny?
Yeah, they're going to be faster across every discipline. And over the course of a sprint distance, are probably somewhere in the region of 4 to 5 minutes quicker than Carson Clough, but this is a much, much shorter version. But I know what competitors they are. Dave will be relying upon Luke to give him all of those visual cues. He'll hopefully move through transition quicker than Carson as well. But I think Carson will have it between his teeth. He knows the course. He knows every twist and turn, including this twist and turn up this ramp. It's Carson's race right now.
And you've been on the ground before as a high-performance manager. The Team GB coaches, they'll be out there. They'll be giving all the information to Great Britain, all the time splits, probably out on the course at various points.
Yeah, I think it's as exhausting a job as it is competing at times, trying to get time splits to athletes. But yeah, I don't think there'll be many teams who are left wondering what's going on. But I think actually this is an opportunity for these athletes to have some fun, to enjoy themselves and see what comes of this first World Championships.
So 1 minute and 13 seconds. You said over a sprint distance, around 4 or 5 minutes? The gap potentially needed? I'd say it's possible.
It's possible, is it probable? I'm not too sure just yet.
Only time will tell. But I think we're in for an exciting finish.
Carson does also have one leg already in him. He's already done a full super sprint distance here. Has that warmed him up, or has that tired him out?
Yeah, let's keep an eye on that time gap. So 1 minute 13, that was the gap back to GB out of the water behind the USA. GB have not medaled at a previous edition, although this is our first World Championships. At the test event, the demonstration event, Team GB were not on the podium, so they will really want to get on the podium here today. First opportunity at a World Championship title, but at the moment, it's Team USA in the front and all to play for. So also electing to go for the trainers, Johnny. You can see they've gone to go for the Velcro straps and the trainers for that really slick transition when they come in from the bike onto the run. They'll save themselves a bit of time. Won't have to unclip and put their trainers on. Spain still in contention as well. Victory seemed to have a rapid run out of the water there. Looked like he was going to head out on his bike just behind Great Britain. He was around about 20 seconds, 15, 20 seconds out of the water behind Great Britain, but seems to have been able to make up some time. Howell of Australia. So Howell now making up a spot. So he has leapfrogged France. Australia sitting in 4th, France in 5th.
Howell competes in the PTS 5 men's class and had a fantastic race on Friday, actually, making a podium place. He finished 2nd in 1 hour and 13 seconds, but he's going to be up against Alexis Hankin-Kwon. And victory here from Spain.
Hankin-Kwon obviously needs no introduction, a legend in French sport.
And interestingly, Hankin-Kwon across that sprint distance was 20 seconds faster than the Australian.
So a real tussle going on there between France and Australia, currently in 4th and 5th respectively. They are around about 25 seconds behind Spain, sitting in 3rd. Realistic shot at a medal?
I think at the minute, anybody could medal. I would say the strong contenders here are France, Australia, Spain, Great Britain and the United States. I think the last time we have checked in Great Britain, 52 seconds back from the United States.
Yeah, that was 1 minute 13. So that first time check, Great Britain has already gained almost 20 seconds. Spain still lurking there as well. Further 7 seconds behind Great Britain. And then Australia and France at a minute 24 and a minute 28 respectively. As we see Ellis here of Great Britain on the tandem.
Very fast run on Friday, and Carson Clough is certainly one of the fastest runners in his class. 16:20, he covered 5K Dave Ellis, 15:26. So again, this game of cat and mouse is going to continue. Let's not forget, this is now a 1,250-meter run, so we're expecting these final male athletes to run for probably an additional 90 seconds.
They will be giving it 100% now out there today. Only 3.4 kilometers this bike, so max out for 3.4 kilometers.
And we see Carson Clough riding his run blade. Might have thought he had one over on many an athlete today, and the British team have gone, what you can do, we can do. But it does look strange.
It does look strange. But it might work. As we see Carson Clough, our current leader here out front for Team USA. Navigating this 90-degree turn. And around the technical sections, Johnny, on a tandem, you're going to be slightly slower just because you're moving a bigger piece of equipment around those things, or are they so technically proficient that it's going to be a negligible?
I think we see most people being slightly slower, but actually it doesn't need to be the case. And we had an athlete yesterday who raced her first senior race, Jess Fulliger. Jess actually guided to a Commonwealth Games gold medal in Birmingham. And I've never seen somebody take to a tandem as quickly as Jess did, and she just didn't treat it like anything different to a solo bike, and I think it taught us a lot as to what's possible.
So it was 52 seconds, Johnny. 34 seconds, in fact, sorry, was the last split we got. Team Spain a further 15 seconds behind Team GB, sitting at 49 seconds. So let's keep an eye on that split. The last gap, 34 seconds. We know the previous time split was 52 seconds. And see Team GB now coming into transition 2. Have they been able to make up some more of that time? As you can see, Carson Clough, his shoes are on and he's out. So quick transition by him.
See Ruedit's victory just there in the background. He ran a 15:48 5K on Friday. So even the Spanish athlete, significantly quicker run than Carson Clough. Carson Clough is going to be running scared for the next 4 minutes. Your guess is as good as mine, Gillian.
Yeah, we'll get the data soon, Johnny. We'll be able to tell what that time gap was. Last one was around about 30 seconds. You can see victory of Spain. So a little bit longer in transition with his trainers. You know that Matt Ellis had his trainers on, strapped onto his pedals. So 25 seconds, the gap now. Team GB sitting in second place.
I'm just delighted for the sport, to be honest, Gillian. The first time that we're seeing para-triathlon mixed team relay, and despite its complexities, we're seeing incredible racing, tight racing, and I think for this being the first ever iteration of this event, for it to come down to the final run, final athletes, just a wonderful showcase for a brilliant sport.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The different dynamics just makes it so exciting.
Watching Carson Clough here from the drone above. We'll get to see at this turn whether Dave has managed to take out any time. We're relying upon Luke, his guide, to give him all of that feedback, and we'll see on the road here.
Just see out.
There they go.
Yeah, you can just see Carson Clough heading in the other direction, so Matt's about to... Sorry, Dave about to take this dead turn. Yeah, they look like they're moving really well. You could just see Victory of Spain there as well, coming the other direction, so they'll know how far he is. He was 53 seconds behind US out of transition, but he was around about 30 seconds behind Great Britain.
Carson Clough was 18 seconds ahead still at that last time check. I think we're definitely seeing the medals come from Team United States, Team Great Britain and Team Spain. Although this is where the previous handover roughly was. Have to carry on all the way down past that blue carpet that we can see just in the top of the screen here on the left. Take that dead turn in into the finish, so.
Yeah, a little bit further to go. They'll head past transition. One last turn. You can just see the British athletes, a grimace on their faces. They're doing their best to try and eat into this gap.
That gap is still big enough for 2 motorbikes. I think.
Carson Clough holding tough at the moment. And you can see Grace Norman on the side, jumping up and down, screaming at him. He'll know exactly how much of a lead he's got, and that we have Dave Ellis breathing down his neck.
What a wonderful finish, though. No better conditions. So we're just approaching this final left-hand turn. Carson Clough is going to see that blue carpet. That finish line can't come quick enough.
Yeah, he makes that turn. He can see that blue carpet. He can see the finish line. He can see victory and the first ever World Championship for para triathlon mixed team relay. It's Carson Clough, Dave Ellis with a last sprint, trying his very, very best at the last minute. But it's Team USA who are our world champions here today.
Wow.
And what a spectacle for para triathlon. Dave Ellis at the end, just a few seconds back, Johnny. What racing.
What an absolutely fantastic race to see. And you could see Dave and Luke were not content to give up that potential for a win. As we're seeing Ruid's Victory, who had such a fantastic race on Friday with such a strong run, carry the Spanish team to their first medal at the World Championship para mixed team relay.
They'll be delighted.
They'll be delighted, having raced against Alexis Hankin-Quant, who is currently in 4th, Team
Just
France.
come around the corner, I think, into the finish straight there. Not to be for France today.
Absolute legend of our sport here, but he's not used to not winning.
They'll have to settle for 4th. Australia with a really strong performance as well. Coming down the finish line to finish in 5th place.
Australian team really, really building over these last few years, and just fantastic to see them field such a strong team with young athletes who have all performed so well in the individual races. I think it's a team that's only going to go on across this next cycle and really, really start to make an impact on the individual podium.
So just get our results across the bottom of the screen, Johnny. Just 3 seconds in it at the end.
I think Dave and Luke genuinely still thought that they could have it, and we were watching Carson start to take it easy. I'm not quite sure how he realized how close it was, but 3 seconds separating 4 teams with various impairments and disabilities of men and women. I just think it shows why this sport is at this level, why World Triathlon would love to see this represented at the Paralympic Games. What an exciting morning of racing we've had.
Yeah, fabulous spectacle. Personally, I enjoyed every minute of it. It was wonderful, wonderful spectacle for para-triathlon. And I do hope that moving forward it is included in the Paralympic Games. It would be a very exciting addition.
I think there was the risk that might be quite confusing as a spectator to be able to sit back and just watch and enjoy, but I think there was more close racing than sometimes we see in the individual races. And actually at one point there you sort of forget men and women, you forget disability in classification, and you just see athletes giving everything they've got over such a short distance. And I'm sure for most of them, they wouldn't really know what it was like to race across 10 or 15 minutes, but you could see on the face of Dave and Luke towards the finishing line, it's no less painful.
And Team Brazil, they're finishing in 6th place. And like you say, Johnny, just 2 minutes separating our first 6 teams. In fact, just a minute separating our first 4 teams. So yeah, really close, exciting racing out here today. And we will be hearing from our winners, Team USA.
Garcia, congratulations, the first ever Para Mixed Relay World Championships, and you took home the gold in style.
Heck yeah, thank you. It was fun, a little bit. Glad to be done, but it was a cool event. Pretty awesome to see all the people here that are, you know, it's kind of packed, and people were going nuts, so that made it fun.
Yeah, I mean, talk us through the format. It's like the Para Dream Team, right?
Para Dream Team. See, I'm the dud. We got these 2 young ladies that they were like, if you screw this up, Carson, we don't get a gold medal. And I was like, all right, I'll wear that. So it was good to be able to show up, try and keep up with these 2, and then put together a team win.
I guess that's also the beauty, and maybe in your case, the pain of this format is the way that, like, even a minute and a half, nearly 2-minute lead doesn't mean you're safe.
No. Especially not on my second go round. I was just trying to keep in my breakfast and make sure we stayed in first. And then as soon as I passed here, both Kendall and Grace were like, hey, you got to hurry up. I saw it in their eyes. And I'm like, man, I thought I was chilling.
Significant lead, and what that must have felt like to be chased down, but certainly give him motivation.
No, it was awesome. Awesome to go home with the gold for the first one.
And Kendall, you were charged with picking up the first leg there. How was the vibe on the start line?
Yeah, you know, the start leg is so fun because we have so many people starting together, which is not normally how my individual race gets to go. So it's fun to be on the start line with so many people and really tight and close. So it's just a fun way to start the race.
And you've been in this sport a long time, and to be able to have an event like this potentially coming into the Paralympics as well, but this is the 3rd year, the first proper World Championships. It's a great addition to the calendar.
Yeah, you know, it's so exciting. I think everyone's watched the mixed team relay at the Olympics, and it's such a fun event. And so it's a really cool idea that we might have that for the games in LA, and hopefully we do, or going forward. And yeah, it's just fun to have a team event in an individual sport.
And hoovering up the golds this weekend.
Yeah, pretty good. So yeah, it's been a good weekend.
Congratulations, and Grace, to you. Yeah, I mean, put in a big lead for the team there. Yeah, take us through your leg.
Yeah, I mean, Carson gave me a good lead. I just went as hard as I could because I know that he had to go again. So I was just head down, hammering as hard as I could, not letting up. Had a blast. I love this distance. There's so many people on the side were just cheering us on. And then I knew that he had to go again. So it wasn't just me out there, carried the team. But yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, and having like you guys, you're chasing down a PTVI guy who's chasing down a PTS3 girl. Like the way that it's set up it makes for brilliant racing.
It does. It makes it really exciting because you never know how teams are going to place their athletes and their different strengths. And I had no idea who was following me, and so I just going as hard as I could, trying not to get caught.
And you're obviously building towards a big LA campaign yourself. We don't know if this format will be in there, but as far as the next 4 years, it's exciting times ahead for Paratriathlon.
Definitely is. It's really exciting to see 10 full teams here, and really hoping we get our bid for LA in it, and we'll see you there in 4 years.
We sure will. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry that we're not seeing the interviews right at this minute. We'll do everything we can to get back to the action down.
Vamos a ver la decisión de Jairo, que nos dijo que esta sería su última competición, pero yo creo que le va a costar, y más con ese cariño que le tienen sus compañeros.
And apologies for screen freeze that we have right now. Feeling it'll be an interesting one to see whether teams start to select athletes with an eye on the relay. Potentially suits a younger athlete who maybe hasn't developed strength or the experience to cover full sprint distance, which in some of the paratriathlon classes take a little bit longer than you might expect. So between that hour and an hour and a half mark, whereas if you have a young athlete, being able to expose them to this level of racing on a world stage, the travel, the staying with the team, competing abroad, all of that type of stuff, it'll be interesting to see.
Guys, congratulations, silver here in Torremolinos at the first Mixed Relay World Champs for the Paris. Dave, just take us through that final leg. I mean, it pretty much epitomized the excitement of this format, no?
Yeah, I mean, it was close in the end, but that was a pretty tough run. Did not enjoy that at all.
I mean, you knew exactly, it was a big gap, but it definitely speaks to the way the leads can chop and change in this racing, huh?
Yeah, you've obviously got so many different categories going at different stages, so anything can happen, and I think it just makes it so exciting for the racing and everyone watching.
And for you, Josh, picking it up at the start, as the team kind of composition was made and so on, how were you feeling about taking up that first leg?
I mean, I think I've been so pumped for like the last several days, and even before coming just to get going with this mixed relay. So yeah, it was epic to just start, and with the amount of people that were starting in the swim, yeah, it was great. Carnage around the first point, but I love that, and it was just great experience.
And then even from that swim to the pre-transition to the transition, there's so much to negotiate as well as all the different categories racing at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, coming into transition, it was like side by side, and it's narrow. So with the handbikes, it was kind of just got to go for the gaps and take the corners when you can, and yeah, get the elbows out.
And Claire, yeah, you were elbows out. I mean, you weren't, but coming over the bridge, past a couple on there to set yourself going as well.
Yeah, I was taking no prisoners on that bridge. I was like, let me go. No, there was a good battle between me and one of the other guys on the bridge. But yeah, it was just, we did an amazing job as a team. Our first World Championship, well, our first relay together. So it was absolutely brilliant. That's what I love. I love relays.
Yeah, you definitely look like you're enjoying on the side there. So yeah, this is the first of many to come then, presumably.
Oh, I hope so. No, from my swimming days, I loved the relay. So to bring it into triathlon, I'm like, yes, it's about time. But no, it makes amazing racing. It's so close, and I think hopefully it'll be in LA.
And Megan, for you, a good year, getting even better with this race here today.
Sorry.
A good year for you already, and it's just got even better here today.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I'm so honoured to be part of this team. I feel like it was so exciting and such a win for Triathlon.
Excellent performance, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Para afrontar el tramo final de la carrera, pero Dave Ellis y Luke Pollard han conseguido una remontada espectacular, casi la han conseguido en la misma línea llegada, se han quedado tan solo 3 segundos, y la tercera plaza lograda por el equipo español, así que vamos a tener himno americano escuchando a continuación, y después recordamos que vamos a tener las salidas de relevos de grupos de edad. ¿Cómo? Ahí detrás. Ahora dice que parece que vamos a hacer un tren, dice. Está buena la amiga, ¿eh? Antes. ¿Está bien la amiga? ¿Eh? ¿Está bien la amiga? Vamos ahora a algo ahí, una florecita, un respeto.
So we are waiting for the last athlete in this Triathlon Relay World Championship. Make sure we have a big applause for him when he arrives. 200 meters left for Japan.
Bueno, pues esperando al representante del equipo de relevo de Japón, que nos cruce el cerco de llegada. Una vez finalmente, lo veremos ya en entrega de medallas en este relevo mixto de Triathlon. Está cubriendo y no sé, va a ser este relevo final. Aquí vamos a hacer una conexión al representante de Japón, es Takumi Ando, aunque vemos camino de esta línea y llegada.
Big applause for the Japanese athlete completing this race, Takumi Ando from Japan, entering the finish line in a few meters. And there he is, you can already see that's Takumi Ando representing Japan here in the finish line, completing his race. Let's give him a big applause in this last meters. Takumi Ando from Japan getting closer and closer. Last meters, sprinting as fast as he can, representing his country here in the World Triathlon Championship 2024. Welcome Japan, well done Takumi Ando. Welcome.
Takumi Ando cruzando esta línea de llegada, este abrazo de meta también para los cuatro integrantes del equipo de Japón. Enhorabuena.
Congratulations, Team Japan. And these were our 10 teams competing in this Triathlon Relay World Championship 2024. We'll proceed with the medal ceremony shortly.
Ahí quédate.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mixed relay medal ceremony of the 2024 World Triathlon Para Championships in Torremolinos, Andalucía.
Señoras y señores, bienvenidos a la ceremonia de entrega de medallas del relevo mixto del Campeonato del Mundo de Triathlon Torremolinos, Andalucía 2024. Presenta las medallas Debbie Alexander, World Triathlon First Vice President.
Presenting flowers is.
Presenta las flores Margarita del Pin, alcaldesa de Torremolinos, y José María Raval, secretario general de Deportes de la Junta de Andalucía.
In the third place and the winner of the bronze medal at the 2024 World Triathlon Para Championships Torremolinos, Andalucía, representing Spain.
Terceros clasificados y ganadores de la medalla de bronce, España. Reloj formado por María Moral, Jairo Ruiz, Susana Rodríguez y su guía Sara Pérez y Mil Liudovets.
2024 World Triathlon Para Championships Torremolinos, Andalucía.
Segundo lugar y ganadores de la medalla de plata.
Team Great Britain.
Gran Bretaña.
Represented by Joshua Landman, Claire Cashmore, Megan Richter, David Ellis, and his guide Luke Pollard. First place in the Para Triathlon Mixed Relay World Champions.
En primer lugar y campeones del mundo del relevo mixto de para triatlón.
Team United States of America.
Los Estados Unidos de América.
Represented by Kendall Resch, Carson Clough, and Grace Norman.
Señoras y señores, escuchamos el himno nacional de los Estados Unidos de América.
For this Para Triathlon Mixed Relay World Champions, we invite all the handlers to get up to the podium for the final picture.
Pues sí, también vamos a ayudar a todos los handlers que han ayudado durante el día de hoy a sus equipos para poder hacer posible este relevo mixto, que nos acompañen para esta fotografía de familia en el podio de este relevo mixto de Para Triathlon. a los palavioletas. Es momento también de recoger sus bicicletas en zona de transición, así que es momento de pasar a recoger el material.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us during this medal ceremony. We will proceed at 1 p.m. with the age group standard relay world championship. We will have athletes A starting in the right part of the beach and athletes B, C, and D starting from the platform.